Welcome to Recruiting is No Joke Live. We are here at Unleash at the Fountain booth. I am super excited to be here and in person. And I got a great guest here, Angela Hood from This Way Global. And we're going to be talking about AI. And I've got a lot of questions for you.
Okay, great. I love that.
My first question for you is, where do you think people are going wrong right now with AI? What are you seeing?
I think they're being overly fearful.
Yeah.
There's a lot of information out there. Some of it is accurate, some of it is not. But I think we always need to remember that the media likes to kind of hype up things. If it's negative, they get more attention. So
Yes.
there's a lot
Clickbait.
of, that's right. There's a lot of reason why they would like to say negative things. The really good thing about AI is you can adopt it in small doses, get comfortable with it. And we actually take our customers through an exercise that is helping them identify how is their culture from a technological perspective. What we found is certain teams are more likely to adopt and succeed. They can get some quick wins, and then it can kind of spread more organically over the organization. That seems to be a better way to get started.
I love it. And we were talking before, AI and automation,
Right.
some confusion. So
Yes.
kind of give us a breakdown there of like, what's the difference between the two and
Yeah.
like, how are they getting kind of cross-pollinated and where's that confusion coming?
So the thing I always explain to people is when you walk into a mall and you go into like a Macy's or something, right? You'll see the big entrance to the store. You'll see women's clothing and men's shoes and ties and all these different things, right? They're all loosely called apparel. Artificial intelligence is the same kind of umbrella word, right? There's a whole bunch of things that sit underneath artificial intelligence. And I think that that's where the confusion happens. People start confusing robotics with automation, with RPA, lots of different topics, right? So if you focus on what problem do you want to get solved, right?
Yeah.
We ask that of our customers. We say, just tell us what problem you want to solve. It may be solved by automation. It may be solved by AI. You might need some RPA. You might need a combination. But that's the thing. You don't have to figure that out. You just need to identify the problem and identify what type of solution do you want technology to solve it. The best approach is usually hybrid, technology coupled with people, and all working toward a common goal.
So you got to know the workflow. You got to understand what problem solving. So from your perspective, like what are some of the exciting use cases, with recruitment that we're seeing? What are some of the things you're excited about? And then I guess, what are some things that you're like, all right, we might be going wrong with, and we're not thinking about it the right way?
Let me start with the thing that I think we really need to address. When we are creating something through generative AI, we're not actually creating it ourselves. We maybe are participating in the creation of that. And I think we need to be transparent to say this image was created with blah, blah, blah AI. Or this document was created with the assist of blah, blah, blah AI. Partially because it identifies that you know what you're using. It identifies if there's a problem, where can you go back and back source that. But the other thing is it makes people aware that you're using technology and that you're being transparent about it, and it reduces the fear and concern. So that's the first part. The second part is when companies are saying to us, I need a said workflow.
Yeah.
They think that they have to mimic their human workflow. And so it might be like 45 steps that they're having to do. And this 45 steps could be what is required for them to recruit for a role. Okay. And this will take weeks, possibly months. And what we do is we say, okay, about 70% of that can be automated. Let's automate that part and take 3 weeks down to 3 hours. Then let's hyper focus on improving your ability as a person to actually get the strategic and more important part of the job done that computer cannot do. Only a person can.
Got it.
And the thing that I love the most, and this is, I think, the part that's missed so much, is when humans adopt good technology, they end up getting more work-life balance. They get to, especially recruiters, they get to watch their kids' soccer game, not looking at resumes. They are able to spend more time with candidates, spend more time with people.
Yeah.
And they are happier. And I think that that's the whole point, is we should be using tech to make us happier.
And look, but that's not, like you said before, it's a clickbait, is AI is going to replace everyone's jobs. So I know, I'm guessing like you're thinking people who learn AI, right? So like for recruiters, for people who are curious, and I think there's a lot of fear, obviously, like people don't want to learn new things,
Yeah.
so they're fearful. It's like, where do you go to like learn about new technology and like implement things?
There's so many courses online. I think that you really have to pick the ones that are high quality providers or very specific, focused on whatever the problem is you're trying to solve. So one of our biggest partners, and I think a lot of people know this, is IBM Watson X Orchestrate. We do not have we do not have the size and capacity that IBM has to put hundreds of engineers on things for years to create the infrastructure that we need for really great workflow technology. But IBM did have that. And we've been working with them for the last 3 years to get it nailed. And what we see is customers like Ronstad are being able to get through their workflow in minutes that used to take weeks and hours that used to take months. That frees them up to be able to go do the part of their job they really love to do, which is talk to people. You know, recruiters are people. So I think we should enable them and empower them to have the work-life balance, but also the work life that they want. Who wants to do mundane, repetitive tasks all day? It's stressful.
I love that.
Oh, do you? Well, then I have a lot of work for you.
Okay, so I told you I was on the street, just on the promenade, and I was asking people.
Oh, so you did that here in Vegas?
I did it in Vegas.
Oh my gosh, you're crazy.
So we got guys with like cigars, beers.
Love it.
And I'm like, how would you feel if you get through the process, you have a screening call, and it's with AI? And I got some interesting responses. Like people were like, oh, could that happen? I'm like, yeah, probably.
Right.
But one thing that came up, one of the women I interviewed, she was like, I actually like that because then I'll feel like I'm being judged by a human.
She's smart. That's exactly right. So there's 188 biases that exist when we interact with any human, right? It could be you walk up and you like the way they're dressed. They have the same name as maybe an ex-husband or ex-wife, so you kind of don't like them, and right off the bat.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of weird things. There's also
they don't like the right sports team.
That's right. Yeah,
it's a big one.
A big one, very big. How about politics? Right? They find out that you're aligned in a different way politically. So there's a lot of biases that enter into the workplace that should not be there. Now, we are not going to get rid of bias. That is a survival instinct.
AI is actually less biased than human.
So when we were building ours, we identified, I failed 13 times. Not bragging about this total failure for 13 times. I'm just saying that it was really ugly.
Yeah.
The level of bias, unless you solely focus on that and get that right, it just is there. Because we as humans, when we build tech, we tend to put our own biases in that. But over the 13 failures in 4 years, we were able to get to a point where we can mitigate significant amounts of bias.
Yeah.
I don't think we should ever anyone should falsely claim all the bias is gone, right? Because we're still humans.
Yeah.
But we have been able to prove through our customer response that it is a game changer. They see talent that they've never seen, and they see them in a way that they've never seen them. And it also creates opportunities for the talent as well, right? They get more interviews, they're getting better jobs. And something that I think we learned that was probably maybe the most shocking is that when people are a person of color or a woman, they will tend to need to be overqualified to apply for a job, okay? So here's what happens is I've been rejected and rejected and rejected. So now I'm making sure I've got all of the qualifications plus some. I apply for that job. And then I don't get selected because I'm overqualified. So I continue to go down this path, not understanding that I'm part of my own problem. So what happens is when we have this bias in our systems, we end up unintentionally giving fuel to the people that are most underserved and most underrepresented in work. And it's counterintuitive, but the bias is in the candidate, not in the recruiter at that point.
So how do you, like building a technology or implementing AI, how do you actually identify where that bias is? How do you figure that out?
Yeah. Oh, that's a really, remember the 13 failures? You go through.
That's what I'm curious about. Like, what were you testing? How were you testing that?
Well, we went out with the solution that recruiters told us that they wanted, which was basically mimicking what they do. So I'll give you another example. we had a whole group of recruiters that said, we want you to make sure to surface all of the people that went to Ivy League schools because we want to hire them. We want to prioritize them in the hiring process. And we said, okay. And so Genius, that's on my team, a young Black woman, and she said, do they know which the Ivy League schools are? Like, and I was like, that's a great question. Let's ask them, right? So they were working with us over the course of months. So we set them all down and said, okay, can everyone write out all of the Ivy League schools? Most of them got 3.
They don't like one.
Yeah, that's right. So, and most of them listed schools that were not Ivy League schools.
Oh, wow.
And so then what we realized is there's this information bias, right? It's what I think I know, and I'm applying that and saying this is like a rule that I'm using. But that information is not always accurate. In fact, we were seeing that about 87% of the time, the information they were making decisions on was inaccurate.
So you got tasked asking real questions. So what about like with the recruiter flow? Like were you monitoring like the work they were doing? Like how did you get that?
The workflow?
Yeah, that workflow.
Yeah. So we actually videoed workflow. We started with videoing them reviewing a resume, which was where we identified there was a couple of companies that had gotten to the point where we said, well, we don't want to know if it's a male or female, right?
Yeah.
So they were cutting that part of the resume off, like literally with scissors, cutting it off. So they would just look at the resume. But then we saw...
So no photos on the resume?
No photos,
all right.
No names, no anything that would indicate age, all of this, right? It's gone. But they would see a word like waitress, right? They would know it's a woman. Or they would see one of the HBCUs, a historically Black college and university cited. So, oh, this person's Black, right? So they would be able to determine lots of things. And the fascinating thing is they could do this in less than 9 seconds. It was like...
Yeah, so how long were they reviewing the resumes?
Typically, it was less than 6 seconds.
Wow.
If they
less than 6 seconds.
Right. Yeah.
So it's true then?
Yeah, no, it is,
6 to 10 seconds.
Yeah. Until they get to like a short stack. So here's what happens too. Let's say, and this is a very old manual process, but I'll just walk you through it. They print out 100 resumes for people that have applied for a job. They'll start, there's just a stack, right? They just start going through them.
Yeah.
They'll circle things. They'll just put things in the trash, whatever. And then they get to a point where they have maybe 3 or 4 that look pretty decent. They will shortlist them and they will send them in for submission, right? At that point, all the people that are left in the stack are not being looked at. And you may have 3 perfect candidates in that stack, but kind of by chance, were they looked at or were they not? And so we initially started off and said, we're just going to surface the talent and match them to the right jobs. Then we've discovered that the best thing that we could do for companies, in addition to that, was look at every single applicant for every single job, look at everyone that had applied for jobs previously, and match all of them to the current open jobs. We saw a lift of 38% in jobs being filled, and Randstad reported a 49% increase in the quality.
Last question.
All right.
Or I'm curious what you think of like these auto apply tools on the candidate side. So we talked a lot about recruitment. What are your thoughts with candidates matching up their resumes to job descriptions? Like, does that complicate things? Is that good?
Yeah.
You've seen like the auto apply tools.
Right. I understand why they're being built. I understand why candidates are like, yes, that's the thing I need. But part of the challenge is they're in such a churn that it's a little bit of a panic move. It's like, I can't figure out another way to do this, so I'm going to try this. The truth of it is you should do research on the company. You should do research on how do you fit within that company culture.
Yeah.
And you should really focus. It's kind of like companies. We have to really focus, right? We can't do everything.
Yeah.
They should really take the same approach and say, these are the 10 jobs I really want. I'm going after those. I'm connecting with recruiters at those companies on LinkedIn. I'm sending in a very clear statement of why I'm great for this company and the results I can deliver with that company. I think that's a much more strategic view. And I think there's a certain level of maturity required to be able to do that. So maybe for the jobs that are entry level, or maybe they're seasonal type jobs, I think it makes sense to have a more massive application process. But for a job that's going to be part of your career trajectory, spend more time on it, actually
Yeah.
take it more serious, because the way you enter into that company often dictates how you exit. And if you enter strong, you'll exit strong.
I think it's changing philosophy.
It
'Cause
is,
I
yeah.
think right now, companies really celebrate like, well, how many applicants are we getting?
Yes,
Which is
that's
good.
right.
But it's like, what's the quality of the applicants?
Right.
But now I'm seeing the same with job seekers, numbers game. How many companies can I apply to? When you throw AI in there, and I've seen some tools where it's literally you match a job description.
Yes.
And it's almost like you're fabricating what you've done,
Right.
and it just makes it more of a mess. So what do you think about the human side? Do you think that's going to be more for, I guess, like corporate jobs versus like blue collar? Do you think there's more of a need for that human contact, or do you think it's across the board? So with like those seasonal, those temp jobs, still need that human interaction?
I think we are people, right?
Yeah.
So by the virtue of you entered in talent acquisition, recruiting, HR, you really want to be engaging with people. I think possible or prospective employees also want to know that you want to talk to them.
Yeah.
So there's the part that technology should be playing is in the background.
Yeah.
It should be doing, as we say in the military, grunt work.
Yeah. So you shouldn't even know it's going on.
It's just doing all that stuff that's mundane, it's repetitive. That's where the wins are for technology. People are still in the driver's seat. And I think we need to take the advantage of if technology can lift, let's say 40% of my work can be done by technology, right? Now take that time and do your job better and really dig in and talk to the candidates and figure out, are they a good fit? And there's things that a technology is not going to ever be able to do. And we need people to really dig in on those points, right? It also is the way your job's not going to be taken, because technology cannot do what people can do. Likewise, people are not able to make a million calculations in less than a second.
Yeah.
Right? So it's about identifying which places technology optimized for.
Yeah.
And focused on letting people adopt it at a rate that they're comfortable with, but they must adopt. If they do not start using technology, they will get left behind.
Look, I saw Captain America on the promenade, and he's like, said, "What do you think about AI?" He's like, "It's coming for us." So he's kind of right.
But coming for us sounds like kind of threatening, right?
Clickbait.
I think it's already here. It's been here. So I've been an AI company since 2013.
Yeah.
Right. This is not that new. It's just it's being adopted because it's much more affordable.
Yeah.
And you can have, in our technology, you can be using it in 72 hours after you decide to buy it.
Yeah.
And you can have 40% of your workflow managed for you at night, on the weekends, when you're on holidays, starting in the second week. Why would we not do that?
Yeah. I mean, like, anything that's going to make my job easier.
Right. Yeah.
I will do it. I think it's even looking at your own workflows, understanding of the work you're doing.
Yeah.
And not even leaving it up to people you're working for. Understand, hey, where could I potentially save some time? Like,
that's right.
Because I think that's one of the challenges, even within recruitment. Like, everybody does things differently.
Right.
It's not like a universal process.
But but we think we all do things differently. That's not really the truth.
Yeah.
There's so many similarities between the way we do things. The other thing is you'll find out teams inside of your own company do processes differently.
Yeah.
And the system allows you to see what the most effective processes are. And then you can put the other teams on those more effective processes. So you can lift, that really has very little to do with the technology doing that part, but it's capturing what's happening. And it's also capturing when you're falling out of compliance. So it really de-risks the organization as well. There's just a lot of, I think, positive attributes. One of the things we do is when a customer calls us, as long as they're qualified, we'll do a 4-hour workshop with them and their entire team.
How many customers do you have?
We have over 6,000 that are in
a few.
in the talent acquisition and HR space.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, now this is my last question.
Okay.
My last question was like 4 questions.
Okay.
Where can people find you? Where can people find out about you?
Yeah.
And I know you do a lot of speaking. So you doing any more like fun things that people need to be aware of?
So I'm out giving talks about 1 or 2 a week right now. Most of the time I'm at tech conferences.
Cool.
I would love to do more in the talent acquisition and HR space.
That's a call out.
That's right. But the website is thiswayglobal.com.
This Way Global?
Yep, thiswayglobal.com. Super easy. There's a contact form on there, and that contact form actually goes to my team and my executive assistant.
Awesome.
And so if you want to ask me a question or you want to talk to me about something, just let them know and they'll make sure that they get it to me within 24 hours.
Awesome. And LinkedIn as well.
LinkedIn, yeah. We have about 28,000
I love that place, by the way.
followers. You love LinkedIn? Yeah.
Love and hate it.
Yeah. So I find a lot of great connections are made and some are a bit creepy. Like that's the other thing I've learned about giving talks. Is there seems like every talk I give, there's one kind of oddball that comes through LinkedIn.
That's my daily struggle. So lots of oddballs on LinkedIn. Well, thank you so much for your time. It was a great meeting. And yeah, guys, we're going to have
love it.
lots more of this content. So yeah,
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.